Hi and welcome back to How and Why with me, Phil Cohen. In the previous video we looked at the Amida. In this video I'd like to look at the Shema. And I don't do a lot of product placement, but I'd like to recommend this book by ArtScroll as a fabulous introduction, further reading, as a source for further discussion on the Shema. It goes into a tremendous amount of detail introducing the Shema, talking about the various laws about saying the Shema, and also breaks down word by word, phrase by phrase, translation and explanation of the Shema text itself. So well worth if you're interested taking further there. Saying the Shema twice a day, in the morning and in the evening, is a positive Torah commandment. And as such, it's not a prayer that we're saying. Just reading the Shema, Kriya Shema as it's called, is a mitzvah. So it's not necessarily part of. It's not like we're davening to Hashem by saying the Shema. It's His mitzvah that He's given us, and by reading it, we are fulfilling that mitzvah. One should say the Shema sitting down. But if one does have to stand up for saying the Shema for whatever reason, there's no chairs in shul or whatever it is, one should stay in that posture throughout the whole of the reading of the Shema. The timing of saying the Shema, as I say, we say it in the morning and in the evening. The morning Shema should be said within the first third of the day, first third of daylight hours. And the evening Shema should be said after nightfall, and that you can rely on the time. You can look at the calendar and Shabbos, the time Shabbos goes out is a good indicator. I should say, to be precise, it's always worth. Well, it's a good idea to download. There are various apps that you can download. My Zamanim is a good one where you type in your postcode and it will give you a day-to-day, various other timings as well. The earliest time you can say the Shema and the latest times and so on. Or Find Dominion also is useful for other things as well, but it also has the times on it. Because saying the Shema is a mitzvah, reading the Shema, it's important that you pronounce each word clearly. Doesn't mean you have to shout it out, but it does mean that one word shouldn't run into the other. B'chol levavacha, for example. B'chol ends in a lamed and the levavacha begins with a lamed. So it's important to differentiate those two words. The way it was explained to me was it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. If one piece of the jigsaw puzzle is imperfect, is mismatches, it can spoil the whole puzzle. It can spoil the whole overall effect of the picture. And likewise, when you're saying the Shema, having one piece that's wrong, one word that's mispronounced, can spoil it for the whole of the mitzvah. I'm going to assume no tzitzis for the time being. If there's time, we'll talk about the tzitzis and how they feed into saying the Shema. For the first line of the Shema, we cover our eyes with our right hand. We do this to concentrate ourselves not on our sense of sight, which is what we're using for the rest of the Shema, but on our hearing. Hearing is the only sense of the five faculties that requires time, and we've linked the Kriya Shema with the concept of time because when we say it is very much linked to specific times of the day. And likewise, we want to concentrate our time. We want to take our time on it and show that it requires not just a superficial flash glance, but it requires internalization. It requires time to delve and to understand more. Shema is less about just hearing and more about listening and understanding and internalizing and bringing what we're about to say into our lives. It's important we're going to talk about the concentrations of what to have in mind when saying the Shema. Now, to begin with, one needs to have in mind that, like all other mitzvahs that one does, that one is about to perform the mitzvah of saying the Shema. In an ideal world, one would have that concentration right from the beginning when you say the brachas before saying the Shema. So there's no surprise there when it comes to the first line of the Shema. But yes, you should also remind yourself, and in many Siddurim it actually there's a sentence above the Shema saying to remind you that you have to concentrate on fulfilling the mitzvah of saying the Shema. That applies primarily to the first line, the first paragraph of the Shema, but ideally across all three paragraphs, across the whole lot. On top of that, one is also able to perform one or two other mitzvahs as well. Simply saying the first line of the Shema, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, fulfills an additional Torah mitzvah, positive Torah mitzvah. And that is the belief in what's called Achdus Hashem, the unification, that God is unified. What we mean by that, and again I'll go into a little bit more detail in a moment, is that God is the one and only true master of the universe. It's similarly described as accepting God as ruler over our lives, and over, as I say, over the rest of the universe. That in itself is a mitzvah. And one can perform that mitzvah, by the way, incidentally, one can perform that mitzvah any time of the day one likes. It's a separate mitzvah. And one can say that line of the Shema, sitting on the train or whatever it is, and having in mind one is accepting God's supreme rulership over the universe. Okay? But it's obviously good to, if you're saying it anyway, to have that in mind when one's saying the first line of the Shema, because that's what we're accepting. We're accepting, by saying the Shema, the importance of it to our faith, the importance of monotheism to our belief system, and the importance that it is to Judaism. What we mean, to go into a little bit more detail, and it's great if you can have this in mind over and above what I've just said. But it's I personally find it quite difficult. But it's to be aspired to if you can, great. But it's an additional kind of level of concentration if you like. The halachic sources break the word echad, the three letters of echad, down into three aspects of God's unity. Now it's difficult to sort of subdivide God's unity into component parts. I know, but anyway, just bear with me. What we mean by the word Hashem Echad. When we say the letter Aleph, we mean that God is unified. In other words, God is indivisible. God cannot be broken down into component parts. God is unique in being that unified. God is the only thing that is that unified as well. So there can be no... Yes, we do use anthropomorphisms to describe God, but God can't be said to have a gender. God can't be said to have organs or limbs. God is indivisible into component parts. God is unified. When we say the letter Ches, we have to accept that God is above the physical and spiritual worlds. God is undiluted spirituality. God is purely spiritual, and as I said just now, he is unique in that aspect. God, and the reason that is given for the letter Ches is the letter Ches has a numerical value of 8, and we believe that God is above the one earth, the physical dimensions of the physical world as we know it, and above the 7 spiritual realms, 7 heavens, if you like. When we say the letter Daled, we also have to keep in mind that God is the only master of the universe. and he is the master of the four dimensions, if you like, of matter, of space and time. So, as I say, not easy, but I hope I've given you sort of two levels that you can keep in mind. On the one level, just simply believe in God as the only supreme master of the universe. But if you can break it down into those three levels of the Aleph, the Ches, and the Daled, that's all the better still. One needs to understand, though, in as a bare minimum, the translation of the words Shema Yisrael, hear Israel, Hashem, ruler of the master of the universe, Elokeinu, our God, Hashem, master of the universe, Echad, is the one and only master of the universe. That's as a bare minimum. Moving on to V'ahavta es Hashem, when we say that the second part of the first paragraph, if you like, one can have in mind the mitzvah of loving God, which is another mitzvah that's mandated in the Torah. That we should love God, and we should be prepared to dedicate as much of our resources, as much of our capabilities to God as possible. As I say, difficult to do on top of what I've just said, but the more you can pack in, the more meritorious it is. When one's finished the first paragraph, onto the second paragraph talks about God's interaction with the physical world, the concept of reward and punishment, for example. And it's a very important concept, part of our creed, that God not simply created the world and lets it run in autopilot, but that God is actively involved in the running of the universe every second of the day. As we say just before the Shema, God is perpetually creating and recreating the world. In the third paragraph, we come across the concept of God as the entity, for lack of a better word, that brought us out of Egypt. And again, there's a positive commandment to remember the Exodus from Egypt when we're saying that. The tzitzis. The tzitzis should be wrapped around your... don't know the name of it. The one next to your little finger. And they should be wrapped around there. Ideally, when you say the words V'havienu l'shalom in the Shacharis prayers, you don't pick up the tzitzis during Mariv prayers, during the evening saying of the Shema. When we say V'havienu l'shalom mi'arba kanfas ha'aretz, when God bringing together of the four corners of the earth is a natural place to bring together the four tzitzis. Some people do have the custom to bring them together right at the beginning of the paragraph, but strictly speaking, you can hold off until then. You hold them in the left hand. For practical reasons, you're going to cover your eyes with your right hand, and that can get quite fiddly if you're wearing tefillin and you want to kiss the tefillin, but I'll leave that as a separate consideration. You then kiss them. Before you start the third paragraph, one should hold them together with one's right hand together, and then kiss them at each mention of the word tzitzis. And then again the word MS at the end. I hope that was a useful video for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for watching, and all being well, there'll be more to follow.